This was art by David Revoy. David is an open source artist. He's based in Toulouse, France. Welcome to Passionate Voices. Hello, David.
Hello.
David, what's your passion?
Oh, my passion is to draw picture. I think it's the most generic terms I can find for everything I do, from concept art to illustration to everything. The common things is making picture. So yes, I'm a picture
But it's
maker.
all under free license, right?
Yes. I have also this passion for making it for the free culture in general, and for delivering the things free, open source.
How did that start? How did you get involved in open source and free software, free culture?
Oh, as far as I remember, I always was interested with the open source movement. Even when I was using Windows and proprietary software, I always kept an eye on the Linux distribution. I always kept an eye on GIMP a lot. It was one of my first digital painting software. And I always really appreciated all the movement. I was very near also the Blender Foundation, and all this culture finally get really inside of me, and I finally get a part of it somehow. And now I try to make it to also be an actor of it.
So you, as far as I recall, you don't have an education in art, right? You got involved on your own time.
Yes.
How did you get started in doing art and then making a living doing art?
I have a very tiny little education in art, but it was industrial art. It's the art of making object design, and it was before 80 years old. So it's not really serious study. It's more like a special option for something more general. So it's not. I can't even call it a specialized study or something technical. It's really general and normal. Finally, so that's why I often say in interview that I have no education in art. But as everyone, it's a bit forced to say this because there is thousands of tutorials available on internet. And even if I studied them alone, I had plenty of books. I have plenty of resources. So I can't say I learned all by myself. I don't live in a grot, and I didn't find half of the tips and tricks I use alone.
You did some street art early on as well, right?
Yes. I made it on two levels. The first is I started as a portrait artist in Avignon. It's a city with a lot of tourism on summer, and on the main place of the city there was already portraitists. So I took time to watch what they were doing, and because I was very young and they were not really afraid I was taking some money from them. They let me install next to them, and I learned a lot of things next to them this way. And,
how old were you then?
Sorry?
How old were you at that time?
19 years old.
I think you shared some pictures with me from that time, right?
Yes.
Let me actually pull those up. So
yes, this picture was took by a Japanese tourist. She was very nice to send it to me back at this time. It was a real photo. I sent it by postal, so I was happy to scan it a few years ago.
How old were you in this picture?
19 years old.
19 years old. Wow. And where is this taken?
It's taken on the front of a bar in Avignon.
And what were you drawing there? Do you remember?
I was drawing this girl. This one is one of my little niece, and I know she would accept to be represented on this video.
And what's the story behind this picture?
At the same time I was doing portraits, I started to make painting, because on the winter it was harder to live. So there was no tourist, but there was a lot of art gallery in Avignon, and I started to do a lot of painting. And this is a painting I made for this exhibition, but this one is one of the rare that wasn't sold. It's very black, and I even kept this one for myself, because there is a very strong focus on the portrait, and there is some weird reflection on the vase of the flower. If you see on the corner, you can see that it's a skull with the candle on it. So there is this flower that almost dying, some the theme of nudity, some smoking. There is a lot of irregular things in this painting, and she also clearly have a arm of man in front. So this is probably one of my weirdest painting, and one of my probably more interesting, because at this time to sell painting, I mostly did flower in vase. I mostly did decorative painting, and it's painting as you can buy at IKEA. You know, it's they're just decorative, lot of colors, low price, very fast to do, just to sell them. This is a picture of the same period, but just after, and I started to start to mix the decorative aspect with the frame painting, and with keeping interesting subject like bodies, and not flowers anymore. And I was starting to go a bit abstract. So yes, I really liked this period, because it was colorful, abstract, and I started to be a bit more artistic, less figurative, less trying to do gradients, skin textures, and everything.
Yeah, you can sort of recognize the date by the cell phone.
Yes, this is the old Nokia from from 2000. Yes. And
this is one of the more decorative paintings you were mentioning?
Yes, and this is the end of my painting period. And this piece was one of like 20 similar to this one, in different colors, and I was totally going to almost abstract, and the pleasure of color and form for themselves. So I'm really happy to make a lot of painting, and to have pushed my creativity to deconstruct things, still going to abstract. It's very satisfying from what I learned, because now I'm an illustrator, but I do very figurative things, and I still remember what is more important in art than just representing or just the technique. There is something emotional that you can just reach with colors and don't need to represent.
Yeah, very beautiful choice of colors, for sure.
Thank you. On a screen, it's nothing. In real life, with all the glazing and all the layers, it's when there is a sun ray on it, it's wonderful. I can't see it anymore. It was bought.
So in the opening sequence, we saw this painting World Hunger, the yin yang of World Hunger. Can you talk a little bit about the story behind this painting?
Yes.
And I think that one is computer art, right? You drew it on the
Yes, it's a computer art. It's like 80% computer art. There is a drawing made on paper at first, and I did a scan of it, and so sometimes there is some idea that won't leave your mind, and this one of them. I just was walking, I think, on the metro in Toulouse, and suddenly I just saw a yin yang somewhere, and I get this idea that the black part is not really balanced in real life, and but it was very controversial. And say, no, if I represent this, people will believe it's about racial things and not geopolitical. And when the question started to circle like this in my head, and I say, okay, I will not survive with all these questions in my head. I need to put it down and to see what it will be. Yes, it resulted as one of my most controversial pieces, probably.
Controversial how?
Yeah, because yes, even this week I still received a lot of comments about it. And some people send me statistics and say me, hey, you see, your artwork is not the truth, or this doesn't represent white people, or things. They're totally out of topic. It's not really about white and black people. It's really about two sides that should learn to share the resource, and that counts. The two sides are suffering, and people don't get it in this illustration. They think there is one side that is very happy and the other side that suffer. And I want to show that the pain for the body exists on the both sides. I'm just angry at the out of balance things. And this artwork was all about it, not race, not really geography, not really all the things I could learn about it, but it's really about things out of balance, about food. And yes, I still receive some crazy email about it. Some even threat me to death.
Wow.
For this piece. Yes, yeah, but I'm secure. I think it's just email, and I also receive politics. There is politics who want to use this piece in South Africa, and I always refuse. So this is, for example, one of the pieces that would be very problematic for me to put in a Creative Commons attribution only, because the sort of reuse would be too difficult to manage.
Yeah, so on that one, I think you've chosen the non-commercial and no derivatives. So
Yeah,
it's still
derivative.
people can still use it like in this video, but not if they're using it commercially, and not if they're manipulating it or adding like meaning to it that isn't there to begin with. Right?
Yes, and if someone hear this during this interview, my art in Creative Commons, non-derivative and non-commercial is just the public license behind it. I don't say public domain, it's a public way I write the license. But if you come to me with an email, or if you want to work with me, just contact, and I can give exceptional permission to override and to let them display in a video or to support some things. And there is plenty of association about anger that use this illustration, and I'm really happy to give them the illustration for free. But it's just a filter.
So recently, you've started to create a webcomic called Pepper and Carrot, right?
Yeah.
And Pepper and Carrot is a very ambitious project. Like the individual episodes, how much time do you take for like any one of these episodes? They're huge, right? Any one of them has.
I don't count.
Yeah.
I don't count, and probably if I say the amount of hours, people won't believe me, and they would say no, really, it's probably represent more than 10 hours per frame sometime, because I start over. If I don't like the story, I remove some panel and I add, and I just want to make it perfect as I would like to. This idea is very crazy, because when I look back to the first episode now, I see them as very not perfect. But maybe I took a bit of skill on the way, and I'm really happy about it, about seeing that now I would handle them totally different. But I'm really happy to make all what I have inside it and to push them to the point I can't push it more, because it's the only true way to see where I am as an artist, and when I see now an old episode, I know that I couldn't do better. Even if it's crappy, I couldn't do better. I made everything possible, so it's really representative of all my skill at this moment. So I don't have really a lot of regret, but of course I always want to take them all over and fix them all over and make it and then look everything better. And yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your technique? So you sketch a little bit on paper for Pepper and Carrot? Or?
Oh, Pepper and Carrot is a pure laboratory of techniques. I don't have any rules for the techniques. I have a drawing that come to my mind in color. I have drawing that come to my mind in concept, and I need to invent a machine or to make a plan, and I have things that come with words also. So depending where the input come from my mind and how lazy I am, because sometimes starting on paper can take more time than on computer for some topics. And I manage all this inside my brain, and I often start with a method. It's always the wrong method. I'm really gifted to take always the wrong method. And the one after 10 panel I hate, and I say, no, not anymore. Next time I should find something else. This is too hard. And but yes, it's I don't have any rules. So yes, I can start on paper. I can start on computer. I can ink directly with pencil, or I can ink on computer.
You have some sketches you can show us?
Oh yes. Sketches about Pepper. Is it good like this?
Yeah, we can just barely make it out. Yeah, we can see her hat.
Yes. I think if I remove her hat, a lot of people wouldn't recognize her. Yes, her hat is just a big part of her personality. And yes, I had one user who submitted a story and say it's a story of Pepper losing her hat, and I was really curious about, wow, if she loses her hat, it will be very difficult for her to. So another. Oh, yeah, there is a bit of storyboarding on the top.
And a unicorn, I see. I don't think the unicorn was in the webcomic yet, so.
Yeah, no, rejected for the moment.
It's like a slightly bored unicorn.
Yes. I really want to make all this fantastic and beautiful creature look totally bored and depressive. I think I have a dragon pig on this one, but.
Oh, that's awesome! It's a dragon pig. We've seen the dragon cow before. The dragon.
Yes, this one is still rejected. It looks too fabulous for a dragon pig. Dragon pig should probably be maybe like this one.
Yeah, that's a more conventional pig with wings.
Yes, all of these drawings are cleaned. I work on it and all, and I prepared something that I never show. But this is really the true stuff. When I do sketches, here is how it really looks, and you will see it's not looking really good. This was for the sketches for the city of Komona, and
this is great.
Yeah, it's a notes. It's a type of picture that I can only understand myself. And here is the script of the episode 6.
Wow.
It's a bit messy and all. So, yes, so sometimes I'm even too ashamed about this skill about sketch. So I have to redraw a bit the sketch before putting them online. So I want to say to the younger audience that say, oh, wow, he made a sketch. It's again something beautiful. Most of the time, the artist who does beautiful sketch, there is work behind it. And the real sketch is the same for everyone. It's just ideas on the paper, and we don't need to be brilliant when we do a sketch. It's just ideas.
And on the computer, you use a tablet, right?
Yes.
What
yes.
kind of tablet is it?
It's a Wacom Intuos. It's an old model, so I will try to show it. I will put it on my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So here is my landscape daily when I work.
Mm-hmm. And you use an application called Krita for the most part, right?
I'm really happy to use Krita now because by the past, when I was already on the open source, I was using a mixture of a lot of software,
Mm-hmm.
A fork of GIMP Painter, made by Japanese developers, and I was using also MyPaint,
Mm-hmm.
a little software compared to GIMP for painting, and another one, maybe also little Alchemy, to do some sort of symmetry and chaotic things. So I'm really happy now because there is this Krita project, and I can do all my artwork from scratch on it, from the 0 point to the end inside it. That's a very big change from what I experienced only 4 years ago.
So when I look at the stuff that you share online, you don't just share the artwork. You also share speed painting, you share tutorials, you share backgrounds, you share the brush sets. So you make a lot of your internals and your process visible, which helps other people to learn from you, which I think is great. What would you like to see from the community that you're not seeing? What would you like to see from the Krita community, from the Krita users? Is there any area in which the product or the community could do better?
I would really like this community to create a sub-community. I would like to see a free libre painter forum with maintained by young people. I see a lot of this type of community on video game.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see the same energy in Krita, around GIMP, around MyPaint, and not only the official website or official forum, but some place more creative, about creativity, more about creativity than about the technique. Just to leave the official forum for the techniques, for the bugs, for how to do this or this, and the creativity on a separate platform.
You are probably now, today, one of the few people on the planet who make a living or almost make a living from freely licensed art. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to be to the point where you can actually derive at least a partial income from this work?
It's a very long process, and it starts probably at the Sintel project.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the Sintel project, and in the intro video you see a little part of it. And this project was Open Movies, produced by Tom Rosendahl at the Blender Foundation with other artists. And I made the art direction on it. And the whole project was crowdfunded. And of course, the movie, the source of the movies and everything is also libre and open license. So if you look at Pepper and Carrot, and if you look back to the origin inside Sintel, there is a sort of pattern. There is the same license, there is the type of media. It's not 3D animated, but it's just entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really got really inspired by this model. I also propose the credit at the end of each episode, as the Blender Foundation proposed the credit at the end of the movies. So yes, I'm about what people online, I received email and people say, well, your business model is totally crazy. Can you call it a business model even? It's and say, yes, somewhere, yes. It's something I saw. It's something I saw working. You have to trust. when I started Pepper and Carrot and made this, my wife watched it, say, "You shouldn't use this crazy license." And I say, "No, I should." And one of user around us. No, the true story, when I started Pepper and Carrot, I started it as non-derivative and non-commercial.
Mm-hmm.
The first Patreon page, and the second Patreon I had is a long user in the free community and said me, "But why you use non-derivative and non-commercial?" And I thought about it and said, "Yeah, why? That's crazy. I limit myself with this license." So I send him a letter and say, "Yes, you're right. I will go Creative Commons attribution. This is the way to go." And but I wasn't really 100% sure. When you start from the scratch, there is a lot of doubt about everything. So.
And now you have a commitment from your fans to get, what is it now, more than $900 for every finished episode of
Yes,
Pepper and
yes,
Carrot?
and it's a lot. It's a lot. From a perspective of a free project, it's a lot. From the perspective of an entertainment project only, I don't propose development. I don't sell rewards, and all my comics, all my source, all my bonus and extras are online. So from this perspective, it's really a lot, and I thanks a lot all my Patreons. I don't know how to say Patreons or patrons. I often mix the two, and I'm sure people laugh about it. But I really thanks them to stand behind Pepper and Carrot. It represents a lot to me. Of course, it's a dream come true. Come true. It's a dream come true. Every artist I know would love to make their own comics, would love to get paid for making it, and to keep the control of it, about the stories, about the art. I worked a lot for publishers by the past, and if I had a publisher for Pepper and Carrot, I'm sure he would ask more breast for Pepper. As first things, he would say, "Hey, Pepper could be a bit more older with a bit more sex appealing because it's a comics and the target audience are a teenager male. Could you fix this?" And after, if I start to fix something like this, it would say, "Next stories, I want a battle, and next stories, you could do this." That's how work publishers. They also take care of marketing nowadays. And I'm really happy to can make crazy idea or stories about Pepper and Carrot without relying on violence or sexual things or all the classic of the comics for marketing. So, and this I can only thanks my patrons to make this happen, because without them I would have to go to a publisher to live for doing Pepper and Carrot, and yes, it would be closed. I would probably work 6 months without showing any artwork to the community. So it's very, very hard to work alone, doing 40 pages of comics, and suddenly just release them for people who can pay for it, buy the books. And it's really not a model I like. I really like to be online, to propose new artworks, to interact with the audience.
Yeah, so you talked earlier about the non-commercial restriction, the idea to limit what people can do, whether it's making derivatives or selling your work. And so just a couple of days ago, someone created a Kickstarter with the art from Pepper and Carrot, raising money to create a printed version of your comic, that they do not legally have to give you any share of. And it seems to be a very successful Kickstarter so far. And I know you've been talking to the guy who launched it. Can you talk a little bit about your feelings of that kind of reuse and resale of non-commercially community created art?
I will first talk a bit about this Kickstarter. Yes, there was an issue in this Kickstarter is the author of the Kickstarter, in the description of his crowdfunding page, was acting like if he was the creator. He was quoting my name, but he was acting like if it was my Kickstarter page, and it was really not visible in the side of the page. So people couldn't really know if it's not me. For example, people don't know really my picture, so they could see, oh, it's how David Revoy looks, and he took a nickname on Kickstarter, just this, and it's his page, and he wants to print his comic. And that was an issue, because I don't know what the quality of his comics will be. Also, I wish it will be good, because the Kickstarter is successful. It's already, I didn't check, but I think it's really crossed now a lot the goal. And so I asked him to make a little paragraph about himself, and saying it's a derivative project. It's a republishing, and also sending a link to the Creative Commons attribution, and also linking to the original website, because on the first page there was no link. There was no link to Creative Commons, or no even mentioning it was took from a Libre Comics. So it was just a wrong usage of the Creative Commons license. Now it's fixed. I'm really happy for him, because I know there is people behind this type of project. I'm really happy if Pepper and Carrot can bring more money for external people. If I'm really happy also to see it's a success, because yes, that's my drawing. And that's like a little publisher project. So yes, I encourage this type of project, but I really like when it's done respecting the rules. And, what I often dislike about the usage of Creative Commons in commercial usage is because it's free, people just get out of the rules. And it's free, so it's easy to misuse or to just trash the author name. When people don't pay for it, they sort of don't respect it, and I dislike, because I would prefer to see the way around. It's easier to respect something that was given for free, in my opinion. But
yeah, no, it's interesting. Like in my experience with Wikipedia, what happened is a lot of people created these automatically generated books, for example, and sold them on Amazon with Wikipedia articles in them. And but on the other hand, other people created these new distribution mechanisms for Wikipedia, offline distribution for developing countries, mirrors that are faster to access in certain regions of the world, Wikipedia for Schools version. And some of these projects were commercial in nature. So you sort of get the good with the bad with the Creative Commons attribution license, right? You get new creative reuses. And something like this Kickstarter arguably is like showing, wow, there's actually a lot of people who would love to see a printed version of Pepper and Carrot, which is perhaps something that wasn't clear before. But on the other hand, they don't have to play nice. But you, as an artist, have a lot of power to say, look, this is a good project, and this is a bad project. You should be paying attention to this person. You should not be supporting that person. And I think people will listen if you were to say, no, this is not a legitimate Kickstarter, you shouldn't support it.
Yes. And I was really happy to be in contact this morning with the author of this Kickstarter, because he could send me a link to his previous Kickstarter and say, showing he already did this for other comics. and the comments were positive about receiving the comics. So I know we'll deliver something, and I know the people will be happy with the print quality. So yes, now that's why at midday I reposted it everywhere to show my support with his work on it, because as far as I understood, the comics will be delivered in September. So it will probably have to print them, to send them a postal address and all. Of course, maybe it's more simple than creating them, but I'm really supportive about it. Because it's probably something I wouldn't have the time to do it myself. Here, to have the stock of all the Pepper and Carrot books, go to the post and fix all the address problem and all. If I do this, I will not draw.
So Dave, what's your big vision? Like on the Patreon page, I think you make mention of this idea of a Revoy studio. Can you talk a little bit about what that means? Like if you reach the goal, I think, what was it, tens of thousands of dollars per month? Like some very crazy ambitious amount.
Yes. I remember because it was still with my wife, and I presented her the offline version of the new milestone with this crazy goal at the end, but it wasn't that high. I think it was like $5,000 for this goal, and she saw me and said, "You want to make a studio with $5,000 a month?" And I say, "Yes, it's asking quite a bit." And say, "Okay, let's do the math. We are in France. You need a room, apartment, to pay the tax for people, to clean the room, and we started to write everything. And at the end, we saw it and we saw that the base price for it is maybe this amount per month, and it's only a base price. It's even not fancy." And I say, okay, well, I have to be realistic, because if it's not realistic and I can't deliver something, it will be very crazy. So,
yeah. So what's the idea? What would the studio do?
I think every artist can relate to this. In a very pretentious way, the goal behind Pepper and Carrot is probably to make something as big as a Disney or a Ghibli, but with free culture. I want people to can open parks, to can reuse merchandising, to can do movies on TV and series anime and everything, and don't be afraid to reuse the character to just make a little appearance in a movie or something. I would like to build something as big, but for the moment I'm alone, and this idea is very pretentious, so I just keep it for myself. So the Revoy studio, for the moment, is just the project of the seed of these big things. It's a studio with a 3D artist to make a first animated version. And because I believe the animation with voice, with acting, with everything is easier to get for a wider audience than comic. I love comics. I will still do comics. I will still do the episode per month, even if I have the studio. I will still create and develop the characters, but I want to build aside a version easier to see, to watch for younger generation who see a lot of high quality, high definition, and maybe a comics is not enough anymore for them.
So really to take Pepper and Carrot to a completely new level.
Oh yes, yes. This would give a life, give a voice to Pepper, give a movement, give a soundtrack, everything. And
stuffed animals.
Yes, yes. And I'm really afraid about this period, because it will be very hard to manage. But I'm really positive it will happen.
So do you think we're now in an era where anyone with talent can create free culture and make a living doing it? Are we at that point yet?
I really wish we were. It would be pretentious to say I'm an example of this. I'm just lucky to be at the right moment with maybe the right competencies for this, and maybe it will be a fashion. Maybe in 1 year or 2 years, I will have no supporters because another model will be better for it. So it's hard to tell if our period is a good period for talents to just live about their passion. All the Patreons and all the way to fund project are very related to the audience. And even someone who start and have no audience, no base audience, will have a lot of difficulty, even if he made or she made the more perfect artworks ever. It will grow. Good artwork, good quality will always attract, and that's fair. That's how it works. But it takes time. It takes really a lot of time. And on my side, I started Pepper and Carrots with not a big audience. Maybe people would laugh at me if I say a big audience, but with maybe people who care about my work already. So it's really helped to spread the word, to talk about it. And without this base audience, I think I wouldn't be sorry, I wouldn't be at this level on Patreon and Pepper and Carrots. And
what would you say to people who are trying to do this from scratch, who are trying to build a Patreon community like you did? What advice would you give them?
The first advice, focusing on quality. And when I say quality, it's not technical quality, it's also emotional contents, with the storytelling behind each piece, something interesting to build some interest. And they can choose to be generous or not. I don't say go to Creative Commons attribution because I did. No, this is a personal choice. I think if an artist is not comfortable with it, he can still make even very good quality, post it for free online, and just posting it for free online is already a very big gift in a way. I think a lot of artists start to paint and just struggle on the technique side and say, I must find a way to make this face looks beautiful, to attract an audience, and it's not working this way. It's I think it's more about the content and the team. And even if I'm a technical artist, I never really cared about the techniques. But I paint every day, so the techniques came. And when you're frustrated because it doesn't look great, you fix things on the way. So. But without something to say, it's easy to just do techniques and say, okay, I will probably start to tell things when I'm be ready technically. And I see plenty of artists that are very gifted technically, but that have nothing to say by the end because they just focused on techniques. So they do pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls. I painted the pretty girls, a fun art, a fun art, a fun art. They even don't have own universe. They have to pick the universe of something they saw because the imagination is empty. And yes, I'm very sad for them because it feels like empty shell. There is nothing inside. The outside is really beautiful. The technique is perfect. Very impressive, so that's my advice for people who begin with art and trying to make a community, just work on the content.
Focus on creating something new, something original, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about all the successful web comics online now, like XKCD, SMBC, all of those grade strips, like they're all very original ideas, very lovingly done, lots of attention to the content. But the art itself, the technique may not even be that amazing in many cases. Like XKCD is stick figures, literally,
Yeah.
and yet it has this huge following because the ideas are really beautiful.
I often say to the student asking me about email and all, say, imagine if Terry Pratchett is not living now, but I was taking this example often. Say, imagine if him was drawing even stick figures, he would be successful in comics. Even if people didn't know his empire of world and books, I'm sure with only an artist like this, with only stick figures, could also be very successful. And after I say, okay, and now imagine one of the best painter of every time with nothing to say and with no content, and him, could it be successful?
Thank you so much for sharing your passion with us and for sharing all your work so freely and so generously.
And thank you a lot for your time, for these little windows, and talking about my passion, and also for supporting myself. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.